Hello, yes, you are welcome to today's lesson. My name is Paul. So for you today, we have science. Yes, we have science for basic 6. But before we look at the topic, I want to know your name. So go to the comment section, write down your name. Okay, so what is the topic for today? The topic is here: effect of climate change on humans. I'm taking it again. Effects of climate change on humans. So in basic 4, basic 5, I remember I taught you about climate. I taught you about climate change and the effects. Today we are going to look at the effect of climate change on human beings. If there is changes, or if there are changes in the environment, in the climate, human beings too, we have effects. So today we are going to look at the effects of this on humans. Now let's look at the keywords. These are the words that we are going to find in the text. So let's look at how they are pronounced. As we move on, you will get to understand them. The first word is drought. Drought. The next word is flood. Flood. This word is climate. Climate. The next word here, greenhouse. Greenhouse. And then the last word is temperature. Temperature. So what is climate change? I hope you have heard about it before, and I've also taught you this before. Do you remember? Okay, so what is climate change? Now let's look at it. So anytime you talk of climate change, we are talking about the long-term change in weather patterns and temperature of the earth. So two things that you should know: weather patterns and what? Temperature on the surface of the earth. So these long-term changes, if you have long-term, not short-term, long-term, we are talking about years, long-term changes in weather patterns and temperature on the surface of the earth, this is what we call climate change. So if the changes or the change is short-term, it is not considered as climate change. But if it is long-term, then we say it is what? Climate change. A short-term could be just a day, a week. That is not climate change. But long-term, in years, if there is change in weather pattern, if there is change in temperature on the surface of the earth, we say it is what? Climate change. Right? So anytime you hear about climate change, we are talking about long-term changes in weather patterns and in temperature on the surface of the earth. Okay, now the change in weather patterns and temperature result from human activities and environmental factors. So these changes that happens in temperature, these changes that happens in weather patterns, they happen because of human activities. Human activities, what human beings we do, causes what? These changes. Not only human beings, environmental factors too are reasons why these sometimes we have climate change. So if I ask you to state some of the causes of climate change, remember that human beings, our own activities, bring about what? Climate change, or causes climate change. Apart from human beings, environmental factors to contribute to climate change. And you should know that climate change is all about the long-term change in weather pattern. Not only weather pattern, another one, in temperature. Yes. So we are talking about long-term changes in temperature, long-term changes in weather patterns. Okay. Now let's look at the causes of climate change. The first one is greenhouse gas emissions are one of the causes of climate change. Greenhouse gases are the gases in the atmosphere that prevent heat on the land from escaping into space. These gases keep the earth warm. Human activities such as burning fossil fuels and others increase the gases which result in increasing temperatures on Earth. So anytime you hear about greenhouse gases, listen to me. It is not gases with green color, no. It is not gas, or they are not gases with green color. You should know that they are gases. They are part of the atmosphere. They are gases in the atmosphere. What they do is that they prevent heat on Earth or on land from escaping into space. They make sure that there is enough heat on the land. They keep the land warm. That is the function of these gases, and we call these gases what? Greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases. They are gases in the atmosphere. Their main or their primary role is to make sure that the heat that we have on land will not escape into space. Also, they keep the land warm. They make sure that there is enough heat on land for humans to use. Not only humans, all other living things. Do you understand it? So when too much greenhouse gases are released into the atmosphere, when too much of these are emitted into the atmosphere, it will increase the temperature because it will never allow any heat to escape. So the temperature on Earth will go high. And how do we get these greenhouse gases in the atmosphere? When we burn fossil fuel, like petrol, like diesel, the machines that we use, cars use petrol, cars use diesel. They burn it so that they can work. And the gases that come out, the gases that come out from the exhaust pipe, they go into the atmosphere. These gases contain greenhouse gases. This smoke contains greenhouse gases. So if you have too much of this in the atmosphere, it means the temperature will go high. The temperature on the surface of the Earth will increase. So what you should understand is that releasing too much greenhouse gases into the atmosphere causes climate change. Too much greenhouse gases into the atmosphere causes climate change. That is what you should understand. Okay, so here, the first one is greenhouse gases emission. The next one is deforestation. So when you talk of deforestation, what comes into your mind? Okay, deforestation is all about cutting down trees. So you go to the forest, you cut down trees, you don't plant new ones, and you leave it like that. It has effects on the climate. Now, let's look at it. You see, there are different gases in the atmosphere. One of them is carbon dioxide. Plants absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will increase the temperature on Earth. So plants are there to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that we have in the atmosphere. They use the carbon dioxide to make their own food. So if plants are not there, if you cut all plants, if you cut all trees, the carbon dioxide will remain in the atmosphere and the level too will increase, because the plants that will absorb them, the plant that will make sure they are removed from the atmosphere, these plants are no more there. We have cut them. So if you have too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it will affect the temperature on the surface of the Earth. It will increase the temperature on the surface of the Earth. So that is one thing that you should know, that deforestation is one of the causes of climate change. Now, let's look at this picture. We can see that we have forests, parts of the forest has been cleared. All these trees have been cut down. So if we cut all trees, the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere will be there, and if you have too much of it, the temperature on Earth will increase. But if you have plants, trees all over, they will absorb the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Okay, let's look at the next one. Number 3, agricultural activities are one of the causes of climate change. Livestock and rice cultivation release greenhouse gases like methane into the atmosphere. Releasing too much greenhouse gas into the atmosphere increases the Earth's temperature. So we are still on greenhouse gases. Okay, here agricultural activities like livestock, rearing of animals, and then rice cultivation release greenhouse gases like methane. So if you have too much methane in the atmosphere, what do you think will happen? Methane is a greenhouse gas. It prevents heat from escaping into sky, and it also keeps the earth warm. So if you have too much of this methane in the atmosphere, the temperature on Earth will increase because there will be too much heat. Do you get it? It will make sure all the heat will remain on Earth. They will never escape. It will keep them. And the temperature on Earth will also go high. So these activities, you should know, rearing of animals, that is livestock, and then rice cultivation. Rice cultivation, they release too much or they release greenhouse gases. And one of the gases is methane. And you should understand the function of these greenhouse gases. Okay, so we have a picture here. Have you seen? This is a livestock. So this is one of the causes of climate change. Now let's look at the fourth one. Number 4, burning fossil fuels to power manufacturing plants release gases into the atmosphere. These gases increase the temperature on the Earth's surface. So this is a factory. What do you see? I can see smoke going into the atmosphere. This smoke contains some gases that increases the temperature on the surface of the Earth. So when you burn fossil fuel, when you burn petrol, when we burn diesel, the byproduct, which is the smoke, goes into the atmosphere. And these contain gases that affect or increase the temperature on Earth. Okay, so that is another thing that you should know. So we have seen 4 causes of climate change. 4 causes. What are they? Burning fossil fuel, livestock and rice cultivation. What again? Let's look at them. Cutting down of trees, that is deforestation, and then we have greenhouse gases emission. Okay, so these are the 4 causes of climate change. Now let's look at effect of climate change. Effect of climate change. Before we look at the effect of climate change, the causes of climate change, are they caused by human beings or they are not caused by human beings? They are caused by human beings. Emission of greenhouse gases, burning of fossil fuel, deforestation, livestock and rice cultivation. All these things are done by human beings. If you do these things, it will increase the temperature, or it will cause changes in the temperature on the surface of the Earth. At the same time, it will also affect weather patterns. So that is what you should understand. All the causes that we looked at, they are caused by human beings. All the causes of climate change they are caused by human beings. So we should understand that the things that we do have effects on us, though the effects will not be seen within shortest possible time, but later we will have these effects. These things will have negative results on us. So that is why it is good for us to do the right thing. We shouldn't cut down trees like that. We should stop burning things. We should stop burning things. So too much smoke in the atmosphere affects the temperature. So that is what you should understand. Now we have seen the causes of climate change. We are going to look at the effects of climate change. Now the first one here is drought. Now what is drought? Drought can occur as a result of climate change. Drought is a situation where there is no or less rainfall at a place. Drought can last for weeks, months, and even years. Drought affects the growth of plants, which leads to poor yield. Water becomes scarce for humans and animals during drought. So let's look at this picture. If you look at this picture, you can see that this place is very dry. Look at the soil. You just have small water here. It doesn't rain. So look at what has happened. All the plants are not there. They are dead. All the plants are dead. So you see, when there is no rainfall, this is what happens. And this happens as a result of the things that we do. Effects of climate change. If there is changes in weather pattern, if there is changes in temperature, this is what will happen. There wouldn't be any rainfall for months, for years. And if it happens like that, this is what we see. Plants will die, water becomes scarce, our soil becomes so dry, hard, and you can't use it for any agricultural purposes. So one of the effects is drought. So drought is a situation where there is no or less rainfall at a place. The next effect is flooding. Flooding is another effect of climate change. When the heat on the earth is increased above normal, ice melts, causing the ocean to rise. Climate change can also cause rain to fall continuously over a period of time, and this affects human and animals' lives. Flooding can also destroy property and cause people to migrate. So let's look at this picture. Have you seen it? I can see car, I can see motorbike. Yes. So when water overflows and submerges lands, this is what happens. When water overflows, they move beyond their boundaries to cover dry lands. This is what we see. So this is one of the effects of climate change. This is one of the effects of climate change. Okay. The next one is human health risk. Is another effect of climate change. So another effect of climate change is human health. Now let's look at it. When there is drought, the heat level in the atmosphere increases and may have effects on human health. Flooding, on the other hand, can spread diseases easily. So let's look at this picture. When there is too much heat, what happens to us? Even in the room, we find it difficult to sleep. That is where most of the people get heat rashes and skin diseases. So this is one of the things that you should know. Our health will be affected if there is climate change. So this is one of the things. And flooding too. If flooding happens, what happens? It carries all things. The water carries waste, feces, and other things. And this also causes waterborne diseases. So flooding is another thing that have effects on our health. So the next effect of climate change is what? Our health. Climate change have effect on our health, so you should understand it. The next one is wildfire. If there is climate change, one of the effects is what? Wildfire. Let's read. Wildfires can occur due to too much heat on land. Drought causes everything to dry up, and a little spark of fire can destroy forests and their inhabitants. So let's look at this. So if there is drought, there is no rainfall, all plants start dying. The leaves of plant become so dry that any spark of fire will cause wildfire. So you see here, the vegetation is what? Is burning. All the plants, the trees, they are all burning. It's because of what? Changes in the climate. So climate change bring about this wildfire. Okay. The next one, changes in seasons are another effect of climate change. Climate change can change the expected weather condition in both the wet and dry seasons. This will affect farming activities and other activities that solely depend on the weather pattern. So if there is climate change, you should understand that the weather pattern will change and the temperature on the earth will also change. So in Ghana, we have two seasons. We have wet season, we have dry season. Farmers use two seasons. So if a farmer knows that he's supposed to start his rice cultivation in May, because from May, June, July, there will be enough rainfall, and the farmer cultivates during that time and there is no rainfall, what happens? So you see, if this thing happens, it affects farming activities. Not only farming activities, other activities that solely depend on the weather. So there will be changes in the expected weather condition, and this will have effects on human beings and other things. So we should understand that changes in seasons, they are one of the effects of climate change. So during dry season, we expected that there will be no rainfall, but sometimes during dry season, that is where it will rain. Always or almost every day it will rain. During wet season too, we expect that it will rain all the time. But if there is climate change during wet season, you will not see any rainfall, you will not experience any rainfall. So this affects those who plan their activities according to the weather conditions. Okay, now let's look at ways of controlling climate change. Now, what are the things that we can do to control climate change? What are the things that we can do to control changes in weather pattern, changes in temperature on the surface of the earth? Now let's look at it. The first one, planting of more trees or afforestation. So if you want to control climate change, you should plant more trees. That is afforestation. Second one, waste materials can be recycled, reused, or reduced to minimize the amount of gases released into the atmosphere during burning. So anytime we burn waste materials, the smoke that goes into the atmosphere affects the weather. It affects the temperature, and these have effects on the climate, or it causes climate change. So what can we do to stop this waste? What we can do is that instead of burning the waste, we should rather use it for different things. We can recycle it, we can reuse it, and we can reduce it. So these are the things that we can do. Okay. The next one is that vehicles should be maintained regularly to reduce the amount of smoke released into the atmosphere. So those who have old cars and faulty cars, you see anytime they use these cars, there's a lot of smoke coming out. This smoke goes into the atmosphere to affect the environment, to affect the weather. So these cars should be what? They should be maintained. It should be maintained to avoid or prevent this smoke from going into the atmosphere. The fourth one, people should use public buses to reduce the number of vehicles on our roads that release smoke into the atmosphere. So if, let's say, in Ghana everybody has his or her own car and we all use it every day, look at the smoke that will be released into the atmosphere. So instead of us using our own cars every day, we should use bus. Bus can take about 30 people. So 30 cars, we can reduce it to one bus, and it will reduce the amount of smoke that is released into the atmosphere. Okay. The next thing that you should do is that the use of renewable sources of energy like the wind and solar can help control climate change. This is because they do not produce harmful gases that go into the atmosphere. So we have learned about renewable sources of energy. We have learned about the solar, we have learned about the wind, we have learned about water. So these ones should be used because they reduce the amount of harmful gases that are released into the atmosphere. The next one, number 6, the use of inorganic fertilizers, weedicides, pesticides, and similar chemicals in agriculture should be avoided or reduced. So these things should be reduced. The use of these things should be reduced if you want to control climate change. Inorganic, artificial fertilizers, weedicides, the chemicals that are used to kill weeds, pesticides, the chemicals that are used to control pests. All these chemicals should be reduced. If you reduce using these chemicals, the climate change can be controlled. The climate change can be controlled. Okay, so let's look at the project here. So there is a project. Now let's look at it. Plant and nurture a tree at a vantage point in the school environment. So this is a project. Think, pay, share. Predict at least 3 things that will happen if there are no trees in the world. Share your prediction with the class. So this is something simple. Imagine there are no trees in the world. What do you think will happen? 3 things that will happen. Okay, so in summary, what have we learned today? We have learned that climate change is caused by human activities and environmental factors. Climate change has effects on humans, animals, and plants. Climate change can be controlled by human beings. So today we have seen what a climate change is, causes of climate change, the effects of climate change, and how we can control them. That is what we have learned today. Now let's look at the exercises. So now exercise 1 is here. We have exercise 2, we have exercise 3, then we have home assignments 1, home assignment 2. So this is what we are doing as your exercises and your home assignments. We are bringing our lesson to a close. Take your time and read the book. Watch the video again. If there is something that you don't understand, feel free. Your teachers are there, your parents are there. You can also WhatsApp me with the number over there. Remember that apart from science textbooks that we have, Ghanaian language is there. We have Ghanaian language, that is Asante Tree and then a Kreatum Tree. If you need copies, call. We'll make sure you get copies. Our videos are on YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. make sure you watch them. After that, subscribe, follow us, and share the link with other people. My name is Paul Yansofori. Bye bye.